For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Sherry Irvin. I'm the Senior Associate Dean of the Grad College. As you've probably all heard, graduate assistants, along with all other currently monthly paid employees of the university, are going to transition to a bi-weekly pay schedule. And so Emily Pierce has kindly agreed to join us to kind of walk us through the details of this transition and answer any questions. We are going to be revising the offer letter templates to make sure that they're not giving misleading information. They may not give specific information about all the details of this, but at least we won't be, for example, speaking of monthly stipends anymore, because the monthly stipend is going to become an irrelevant quantity once this transition happens. But I will just pass it over to Emily to kind of give us an overview, and then we will welcome your questions.
Thanks, Sherry. So several of you that were at the last liaisons meeting got a kind of 10-15 minute overview of this transition, but today we'll go into a little more detail and then allow plenty of time for questions too. So I'm going to bear with me if you've already heard this part of the spiel before, but I want to walk through the timeline for the GA transition. So we've got our monthly paid staff and 12-month academic appointments that are transitioning in April of 2024. And then our graduate assistants and any monthly paid student employees will transition in July of 2024. So the way that transition will look for the group of GAs, so we've kind of got three groups of GAs. We have the GAs that are going to be working over the summer. We have those that are on leave, and then we have new GAs. And we'll talk about each of those groups kind of individually. So the group of GAs that are working over the summer of 24, they will get their last monthly paycheck on June 30th, just like they're used to, and it's a full month of June pay. And then starting on July 1, they will enter the biweekly payroll schedule. And so they'll work July 1st through the 12th, and they'll get that paycheck on July 26th. And then, so each biweekly pay period is paid 2 weeks in arrears. So now the next pay period starts July 13th and runs through the 26th, and they get that paid on August 9th, and so on and so forth. So that's how the transition will look for GAs that are actively working over the summer. For GAs that are on leave during the summer and are returning in August, we're used to thinking about the August return from leave date or the August start date as August 16th, but we're going to have to change the way we think about those pay period start and end dates a little bit when we transition to biweekly payroll. So each year we'll release a biweekly academic calendar. And so instead of thinking in terms of 4.5 months per semester or 9 months for the academic year, we'll think in terms of 10 pay periods per semester or 20 pay periods for the academic year. And you'll see what those pay periods are, and I'll show you that calendar here in just a minute. So the effective date for those either returning or starting in August to align with the academic calendar will be August 10th. So that'll be the first day of the biweekly pay period for the academic year 24-25. And then they will receive their first biweekly paycheck on September 6th, and it'll be for 2 weeks of pay. So the other group that I want to talk about is the group of GAs that may be starting anytime between now and maybe you've got a group of GAs hired on for the spring 24. So let me switch screens real quick and show you that calendar. Can you guys see this okay? Is it big enough? Okay. So this is the full 24-25 biweekly payroll schedule. And so this is if you're hourly or you have any hourly employees, this is the same payroll schedule that they're accustomed to. So just all of our employees are now shifting to this biweekly payroll schedule. But I want to go through some key dates that relate specifically to GAs. So starting on November 4th will be the first effective date available for new hires to be hired as biweekly. And the reason we want to have that available is we want to put as few people through having to transition from monthly to biweekly as possible. And as you can imagine, if you just got hired in November or January as monthly, and then you had to turn around and immediately change to biweekly, it would be even more challenging. So there will be, so the EPAF to hire them will be set up on November 4th. So not before November 4th. You'll have to wait until November 4th to be able to enter the EPAF to hire them in as biweekly. And so I'm assuming that most GAs, if you're looking at hiring them before, basically in the spring, that you're going to want to hire them with a January 1 start date. So this is just available in case you have any, odd start dates for GRAs. It is available and they will be hired as biweekly. If you have them starting before November 1st, the EPAF is just not available to start them as biweekly. So if you can push your start date back, it will save them having to go through the transition, but I understand that's not always doable. So if you're hiring GAs that are going to start in spring of 24, their EPAF effective date is going to be January 1. You can use 12/30. It falls on a Saturday, and they'll get the same pay as if you hire them January 1. And I think it's a lot easier for people. They always know that January 1 date anyways. So this pay period works out where you can use the January 1 start date. Okay. And so again, they would, that pay period would be through January 12th, and they would get their first biweekly paycheck on January 26th. And you can see on this calendar that it's got the spring semester dates here. So you can see how does the academic payroll calendar fall. So there are 10 pay periods for the spring. And so when you get ready to, if you've got GAs that are going on leave for the summer or they're terminating, then you want to use the last date of May 17th. And so that's a full academic cycle or semester cycle. Obviously, if they're an international student and ISS sends out a notice that they have to be termed by a certain date, you're going to go by whatever that date is, just like always. Okay. So then this will result in there being 6 pay periods over the summer. So we talked about the 10 pay periods per semester, the 20 pay periods for the academic year, and then there are 6 pay periods for the summer. So there may be different ways of how you calculate GA's stipends, whether you are wanting to pay them X amount for the semester, or maybe it's X amount for supporting a course, or this amount for work on the project over the summer. So we will have some tools available to help you calculate those biweekly stipends, but the way that so if you have GAs that are appointed and they go on leave over the summer and you just go to return them, their biweekly rate will be their annual salary divided by 26 pay periods. And that will be their biweekly stipend. So if that biweekly stipend is not what you're anticipating, because GAs are all 12-month appointments. Even though you may only appoint them in your area for 9 months, the way that their salary is calculated is on a 12-month basis. So right now, to get their monthly stipend, you take their annual amount and divide it by the 12 months out of the year. So going forward, to get their biweekly rate, you'll take their annual salary divided by 26 pay periods. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about is some resources available to GAs and to all employees going through the transition to biweekly. Is the OU Federal Credit Union is offering 0% 12-month loans for up to 1 month salary of the employee. And so we'll send emails out to individuals probably either later this fall or early spring with how to apply for those loans. Obviously, GAs don't want to apply for them too early. They want to wait until the right timing for the transition. So probably wouldn't be applying for those until the summer. We've also contacted some of the larger apartment complexes in town, including Traditions and others, to just let them know that several students will be going through this transition, students and employees. We've had pretty positive responses as no problem, thanks for letting us know. They just need to contact the leasing office to make arrangements. I think already most apartment complexes are already asking for a deposit prior to them getting their monthly August check. So I don't know that that would change, but as far as the schedule going forward, I think they'll be lenient with them. We'll also start hosting town halls specifically for GAs. And then of course, anybody that just wants to learn how maybe the GAs in their area will be impacted. And we'll have those live and some a pre-recorded one as well. And then we recently met with the SGA exec committee, and then we'll be meeting with the Graduate Student Senate here shortly. So I'm going to open it up to any questions that you guys have for me.
You're welcome to unmute, put questions in the chat, use the raised hand feature, whatever is helpful.
No questions? That's amazing.
I have a question. On our GAs in August, are we going to be doing an EPAF? Is it going to go from monthly to biweekly? What does that EPAF look like?
Yeah, so the only thing that really changes on the EPAF is right now, it asks for the monthly stipend and it'll just change to biweekly. So the system will auto calculate that rate based on the either the annual amount you put in or you put in the biweekly and it calculates the annual. So that's really the only difference that you'll see. If you have GAs that are already active, but they're on leave, when they come back in August, you have to submit that EPAF to return them from leave. When you do that, you'll see them in biweekly already. And so if you just return them, it's going to return them at the same rate that they were making, calculated at a biweekly rate.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Emily, there's a question in the chat. What should be the official start date for graduate assistants beginning in August?
Okay, so those beginning in August should be August 10th. And so you'll see that this is the fall 24 schedule and then the spring. So you're used to an 8/16 to 12/31, but in biweekly, it'll be 8/10 to 12/27. And same thing, spring, you're used to a January 1 to May 15th. And so these dates will change every year too, because our pay periods start on Saturday. And so obviously the date's going to shift each year, but we'll publish this calendar as early as possible. Right now, you'll see like a note that says this is a draft because we send our payroll through the state of Oklahoma to process it. So we have to wait for them to confirm dates, but these cycle dates are going to be the same. The only dates they sometimes change is like if they have to update check issue dates around holidays. So, and usually that works out for the better where you get your check a few days earlier.
I also want to mention that the August 10th start date for the pay period does not assume that the student is actually going to be working starting that day. Even if the student is not actually going to start working for several days after that, that uniform pay schedule is what we want everybody to be using. Also, you may all have heard this, but HR is going to implement a remote onboarding process so that especially our international folks, they'll be able to have their documents reviewed so that that August 10th start date can happen even if they're not actually physically present. That's all still true, right, Emily? No changes there?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I saw a draft of that today, so I know that they're actively working on it. And that will allow employees to be remote onboarded up to 90 days in advance of their start date. So we're all going to be proactive and have all this leisurely time over the summer to do that. And so there won't be this huge rush in August is the goal there. So I see there are some questions. So one person asked about when can we anticipate the new offer letter templates being posted? Sherry, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, we've got a couple of different things that need to be addressed in the offer letter templates. Right now, I have legal reviewing some language about the student health plan because it has emerged that students who have been approved for remote work in other states cannot be insured on the student health plan. So we're working on that. We're working on the biweekly pay transition. And there is also some movement happening in terms of the minimum GA stipend. And although that doesn't necessarily affect the template, it affects what offers can be made in the template. So I would expect that by the end of October, I think we should have all of that in there. But we can also work with you if you've got like urgent offers. But if we're talking about fall 24, I would think that November might be an okay timeline, but if that's an incorrect assumption, let us know.
There's a few more questions and I see Ruthie's got her hand raised. So GAs that are 9-month will their final paychecks be on 5/31 or receiving an additional check in June. Catherine, do you mean for the 9-month in May of 25? I'm going to assume that's what you mean and go with that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So their last paycheck will be, their term effective date will be May 16th. And they'll receive that paycheck on 5/30. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I think the thing that was brought up in the staff meeting, and I think maybe I'm just still not understanding, like I'm already currently a staff paid in arrears, so I know that it's every 2 weeks, but so if I were like to quit today, like I still have another paycheck coming. So if we're starting them, if they're like 2 weeks behind, they usually get their final paycheck at the end of May. So would they not be behind one additional paycheck, or am I just misunderstanding the process?
They're still getting, so their last working day is May 16th, and they're getting that check on 5/30. So it is 2 weeks after the last day of the pay period.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And then the remote onboarding process, I think their goal was also the end of October to have that available, but HR will definitely be sending something out as soon as it's ready. So I don't want to overpromise or underpromise on that, but I know that they're actively working on it, and I know they would love to have it ready for spring 24, but stand by on a definitive answer on that one. Okay. If you just have, so this is a good question, if you just have a GA that is already active and they're just changing their FTE or they're changing their rate, they'll still stay monthly. So they won't transition to biweekly unless they're brand new GAs. Okay.
It will transition in the summer,
Yes.
but they will transition immediately when their other stuff changes.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Ruthie, I think we're ready for you.
Okay, I really apologize if you covered this. My microphone and earbuds were cutting out as you were going over spring. If we are, so we don't generally hire our GTAs for the whole semester, the whole do like fall and then spring. If they are continuing their employment, they'll just stay on the monthly for the spring. But if we are hiring someone brand new, then they will start the biweekly.
Correct. Yeah. So if you currently have GAs like start right now, that are active GAs in your department and they stay active, even if they go on leave in the summer, they will transition to the biweekly schedule on July 1, 24.
Mhm.
If you have new GAs, will they start into the biweekly on November 4th or after?
And so, and you said that the letters are forthcoming, right, Sherry? The new letter, okay.
The chat has gone quiet. Do we have any other, Catherine?
So sorry, me again. I know that large complexes have been contacted. Was there discussion about the graduate college or HR creating like a letter for those that like have private landlords and having that access to give that to those landlords?
Yeah, that's a great question and something I should have mentioned. We do have a kind of like a creditor letter available that just explains, this employee is transitioning to biweekly payroll. So if you or you have any students that need that, they can email us at our payday change and we'll provide them a copy of the letter. And I'm going to type in that email here so that you guys have that as well. And then it's all over our website too.
And just for the recording later, the email is paydaychange@ou.edu.
And I'm going to give you guys a minute to think of more questions, but in the meantime, I'm going to also give you a little tour of our website so that you can see how it is broken down. So when you navigate to the main page for the monthly to biweekly transition, which is located on the payroll office's website. If you look at the left menu, you can see that there's kind of a general FAQ, a general timeline, but then it's also broken down to each employee group. So there's the staff and 12-month academic positions that transition in April. There's the 9-month academic positions transitioning in August. And then there's graduate assistants and other salaried student employees that are transitioning in July. And so when you click on those, then you can navigate to the timeline, employee resources, town halls, and FAQ. And that's very much still being built out every day. So if you go there and you don't see what you're looking for, don't hesitate to email me. And then you'll also see some additional resources added. It's like Jennifer has a question.
Yeah, I have a question. So we're going to be hiring, I guess, a grad student to work on a grant. So if it's complete before the 4th, if they're hired before the 4th, it would be monthly. If they're hired after the 4th of November, it would be biweekly. Which actually would be best? Do you know what would be best since?
If you can delay their start date until on or after November 4th, for the employee, I think it would be better because then that way they're not getting used to a monthly schedule just to turn around in a few months and be transitioned to biweekly, if that is possible. I know that is not always possible if you've got a project that has a tight deadline or something like that.
All right.
If they will only be working, now through the term before July 1, then it really doesn't matter. They could go ahead and be appointed monthly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have questions? Oh, I see one.
Once more, how they'll calculate their biweekly rate. Yeah. So make me do some math on a Monday. So I would say that if you're wanting their rate, if you've got a total amount that you want to pay them over 9 months, then what you would do is take that total amount and divide it by 20 pay periods, because that's your 9-month academic term. If you have an amount you want to pay them just for the semester or over what you're used to 4.5 months, then you would take that and divide it by 10 pay periods. So Tara asks, will the GA's timesheets be pre-filled like they are now? How does that look when they go to biweekly? That looks exactly the same. They will obviously have to submit their timesheets on a biweekly schedule, not a monthly, but the way that they pre-populate will remain the same. And just to be clear, this may seem very obvious, but these employees are still salaried employees. They are not hourly, they're just being paid on a biweekly schedule.
And so that means that they're still overtime exempt as they are now. No change there.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay. You answered them all, Emily.
All right, well, thank you guys for your time. And if you do think of any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at that paydaychange@ou.edu email. And we try to get quick responses. And if you have any suggestions on, hey, this isn't very clear on the website, or can you go over this more? I'm happy to do that as well.
I have one more quick question, if you don't mind. Sorry, it is math related too.
Uh-oh.
So
Okay.
apologies in advance. I am run into a little math problem, I guess. I don't know which number to use, I guess, for my biweekly pay rate. I've got my annual salary rate, and I divided that by 26, and I come up with a biweekly amount. I also have my 9 months and my semester rate and my monthly rate, and my 9-month rate does not coincide, when I divide that by 20, does not coincide with my annual rate divided by 26. So which number should I use?
We had some discussion about this in the grad college, and I think what we determined was the annual rate divided by 26 is kind of what we're landing on.
Okay.
And Ruthie, you're exactly right. It is not exactly apples to apples when you go to do the math. We're not taking the monthly rate and just dividing it by 2. It's not as simple as that.
Right.
And so in their GAs that are paid over 9 months, we've got some out there that are paid over 10 months, some that are paid over 12, and then anything in between that. And so it'll probably, to some degree, the department will need to calculate their own rates in a way that translates and makes sense and is still, adheres to the GA minimum and all of that.
Yeah.
But if you have any questions and you want to work through it, I'm happy to do that. And then I'll also try to get some tools. I mean, basically just Excel spreadsheets to help calculate this is my goal amount I want to pay. How do I back into that?
Okay.
But it sounds like you've already done that.
So our monthly rate has generally been what it is, and I'm perfectly fine with calculating that out into an annual rate and dividing that by 26. No problem there whatsoever. It's just when I do the other math, it's like,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that I'm picking the right number, which happy day, the biweekly or the annual divided by 26 is higher. So we'll go with the higher rate.
Yeah. And, there may be reasons for different units to make some different choices, and you should definitely check the budgetary impact of it as part of the landscape of decision-making.
Yeah, I think this solves that issue that we've always seen when we are doing like the partial month pay for August and May. It's always a little off. It's not actually like a half a month or whatever, because they do working days calculation stuff.
Mhm.
So I don't know if this will solve that problem. I mean, it always ends out that 9 months works out to the 9 month rate. Anyway, I don't know. That's math.
Yeah.
Super fun. Thank you.
Any other last second questions? All right, well then, thank you, Emily. We really appreciate your time and great to see you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.